Investigators, welcome to the show. My name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist. Today I have a very special guest to introduce to you today. I have Nurse Alyson, who is going to give us some insight into the shock phase that Dylan experienced, and also some insight into the mindset of somebody like Bryan. I'm very, very excited. I see we have a lot of great people coming into the chat room. I see Wendy, Queen Olive, Jane, Holly, Bonnie. Hey guys, I'm so glad to see you. Cinderella's here. All right, so you guys know I like to get started. There's my computer notifying me that we're live.
Thanks for having me, Jessica.
I'm so glad you're here.
Me too.
All right, so we're going to be talking about Bryan Kohberger. We're going to talk about the Mad Greek debacle, because that's a mess, isn't it? And I just want to start off by thanking our executive producers, Energy Shots and Diane, our producers, Christine Burdick and Sasha Angel, and our awesome channel members. Everything Alyson and I are sharing today is our opinion, and opinions are not facts. So please don't send any negativity to anyone, anytime, anywhere. Let's be kind and good to each other. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell. And give this video a thumbs up so I know you were here. I also missed some super sticker thanks last time I was live, so I just wanted to say thank you. I made this for you. Thank you to each of you for your kindness. So I invested the money back into the channel. I got earphones and a new backdrop. So I just wanted to thank you guys for that. So let's get started. We're going to start off talking about Bryan and Dylan.
Especially when they see this clean-cut guy with no criminal background, they want to know why he did it. Now, I think it's coming into focus why he did it. He seemed to be a devotee of serial killers and crime. I mean, he studied under the BTK's autobiographer. I mean, he was so interested in true crime that it looks like he wanted to be the center of his own story.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Okay, so, and Alyson, when we're playing these videos, you'll want to mute yourself so it doesn't echo, and then just turn your mic back on. You can leave it on now, though, because we're going to, all right, so we're going to start off talking about Dylan. So we have this missing time that is really stressing everybody out. I've seen a lot of people in the comment section asking, like, why did it take her 8 hours to call 911? And so I'm going to play this little bit, and then, so we'll mute your mic, Alyson, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Opened the door. Did this save her life? And the new court order to seal information to protect someone. Who are they protecting? So Bryan Kohberger has two sisters. One is named Amanda, and she is the one who acted in the slasher film. The other sister is named Melissa, and she is a mental health counselor. So this photo has been circulating, purporting to be one of Bryan's sisters at the crime scene, and it has a lot of people asking, why is she there? So first of all, if it is one of Bryan's sisters, and let me fast forward over this part. So that's not what I want to talk about. So I want to talk about Dylan. So what's your theory on this whole shock phase? What do you think about shock? And Alyson is a nurse. She has a BSN in nursing. So can you explain to the audience what shock is? And you'll want to turn your mic back on. You have to unmute it.
Hello?
There you go. Yay.
Okay.
So can you explain to the audience what shock is? Because a lot of people don't know what this whole shock phase is.
So everybody thinks of, the fight or flight response. They don't say fight, flight, or freeze. And you would think in certain situations that you're in that you have the choice of what you want, what if you want to be in fight, flight, or freeze, but your brain actually does that. You kind of don't really have your subconscious does. You don't really have a choice of what, I guess, per se you wanted to choose. Like, so good thing her brain didn't choose to, go at him, because, the situation could have been different for her. But she just basically froze there. Her body goes numb. She can't move. And if she did fall asleep, maybe there's part of the freeze response. You could have a vasovagal response, which means that will make you pass out if you're standing up. Your blood pressure drops, your heart rate drops, but once you lay flat, you come back.
So how long would something like that last? Could that last 8 hours?
So I try to do my research on this to try to find a definite answer. And it's really hard to tell. I was even looking at a bunch of researches that were done, and it says, yes, you'll come back within a minute usually. You'll wake up from losing consciousness after making you lay flat. Because it happens all the time. Like, say when I start an IV for a patient and they are scared of needles, I just lay them flat and they usually are okay. So, but it says they could be have brain fog. It says for the rest of the day, but it also says a traumatic experience could last weeks, but I don't know, to be honest.
Okay. So it sounds like you're not sure this would last like a whole 8 hours.
Well, yeah, because why didn't it happen after the first time she opened the door, or the third? She opened it 2 more times too.
Yeah, that's a great point. If you're just joining me, my special guest is Nurse Alyson. We're talking about the Bryan Kohberger case specifically. We're talking about Dylan and that 8-hour gap between when she saw Bryan for the third time and when she called 911. And, there's been a lot of confusion about that. We're also going to be talking about the mindset of someone who is like Bryan. And I just want to say that, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Bryan has not had his day in court. And we're just talking about theories and speculations. So if this is a Critical Thinkers channel, we present all of the information to you. And then you guys make your own determination of what you think and what you don't think. And it's okay not to agree with either Nurse Alyson or myself. I just ask that you do it in the comment section with kindness and respect. Thank you to our mods. And if you want to join the top chat, you just need to be subscribed for 1 minute. Everything Alyson and I are sharing with you today is our opinion, and opinions are not facts. So just know that we are sharing our thoughts on this. So Alyson, I kind of had the sense that maybe, she had, and I'm watching my words here, that she had maybe ingested something that, caused her to not have a big response. Maybe she wasn't sure if what she was seeing was real or not real, but you had a little bit of a different theory on the case. And I would love if you would share what your thoughts were on this today.
Well, at first I'm looking at my phone. I have the affidavit pulled up here. I'm trying to look for, okay. So she heard the dog. She thought she heard Kaylee playing with her dog, so she opened the door and didn't see anything, I believe. I lost my, I can't find my spot. And then I think she closed the door. Then she heard somebody say, somebody's here. And then she opened the door again and then closed it. And then she heard crying and opened it. And that's when she saw the figure clad right then and there.
Right. So when she heard the roommate crying, or she thought it was Anna crying. Now, we don't know if it was Anna crying or if it was a TikTok video. We don't know. But why do you think she wouldn't have called right then?
That's a good question, because as a college student, I would think, girls are always attached to their phones, especially, in college. if there was any recreational activities going on, if they want to say something like that. Like, I just wonder why she didn't. Girls are nosy. Why didn't she go see what was going on? That is weird that somebody's saying someone's here and then you hear crying. It just doesn't.
So you think that normally most people would go and check on the roommate. If you thought you heard your roommate or your friend crying in the other room, you might just go knock on the door and be like, hey, are you okay? What's going on? But instead she goes back in and closes the door.
Yeah, in my opinion, if that were me, you're opening the door for a reason. You're already curious, and I'm sure you're not sitting there crying all the time, and you want to make sure your friend is okay. And then all of a sudden you see a black figure. That's what also didn't make any sense to me. When she heard the crying, she saw the black figure walk out and leave. So that means she was still alive. So why didn't she go check on her then once they left the house?
So yes, you feel like at that point, once she knew this strange man with the bushy eyebrows that she saw, once he exited, why, even if she was afraid, why at that point didn't she go and check after she had heard the crying, right?
Yeah, and especially if you hear somebody say there's someone here and you all of a sudden see a tall man, masked up and doesn't belong there at 4 a.m. And, there was no party that night, but the house was quiet. You would think you would even message somebody. Maybe there's stuff we just don't know.
That's true. She could have texted, but she wouldn't have gotten a response at that point, because once the man with bushy eyebrows left the house, we know how the 4 roommates ended up. So we know they weren't okay. So even if she'd been texting, she wouldn't have gotten a response. But
yeah,
she goes
back. You can go in more than one response, because she was in the freeze mode. Can you all of a sudden go to the, down for the count, like lose consciousness? But
yeah.
But with your adrenaline pumping and everything, it would just be very hard, in my opinion, to fall back asleep for 8 hours. And then allegedly, I heard this somewhere, I don't know, I don't have proof of it, but there was more people at the house than were there before the murders occurred, I believe. I don't know.
So she, instead of calling 911, somebody called friends over, right? Because the friends, I don't know if they just came over or if they were called over. Do you think that she called the friends first? And if so, why?
There could be many factors here. They could be like, oh my gosh, what to do? Like, for instance, I've been in a traumatic experience, life and death situation, and I was in the flight, actually, response, running away. I got away, and right when I was safe, there was actually a cop that I was able to find, and I ran to them, and we didn't have phones then. But, and I've been in, other occasions I've called 911. You would just think, even no matter what response you were in, everybody has like drilled 911 in their brain for help.
Right.
So
yeah, it just, that 8-hour gap just doesn't make any sense at all. I feel like, it just feels like a long time. And, maybe, again, I had speculated in one of the videos I did earlier this week that maybe she had, taken something and was having a experience. I'm watching my words here, and just didn't know, like, wasn't sure what was real and what wasn't real. And I don't mean this in a negative way toward her at all, because college is a time where a lot of kids do different things and try different things that we don't go on to do as adults. But it's just that 8-hour gap really bothers people. I've seen a lot of comments about it in the comment section from all of you guys. about this. So I just think it, would be great to address it. So
well, I never went to a college. Like, I never lived on campus. I still lived at home with my parents. I didn't live at a big wig college town like that. But I did experience it many a times. I've gone to visit friends and whatnot. And I can just tell you, you can walk into a house. People can say what they want to say, but you can turn to your left and ask if there's any recreational activity available, and you can get it.
Oh,
and
wow.
With that house being very popular for parties and, complaints, we saw the clips of the 2 past complaints from the cops in the last recent months. Right. And then like 150 people were at their house the night before. That's a lot of people. I mean, I've never been to something like that, but even with a house of 30 people, I know that it's easily accessible. So 150, there's a lot going on there, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, that I mean, there was a lot of people there, and that, supposedly the roommates were home. I'm not sure if I buy into that. I don't think the police officers were buying in that nobody was home in the house. But, she was on that second floor. And I talked about Bryan's peripheral vision and why I don't think he saw her. Now, let me see if I have that on this.
You cut out for a second, so I didn't get to hear you.
Oh, I said I talked about Bryan's peripheral vision and why I think the visual snow prevented him from seeing Dylan, and it may have saved her life. So let me play that, if you wouldn't mind muting your mic, and then we'll talk some more on the flip side of this. Uploaded on this platform under the username xr.thosewithvisualsnow. So let's take a look at Bryan's account and talk about visual snow and consider that this may have saved Dee's life. So on November 7th in 2009, Bryan gave a detailed explanation. He said that, quote, "It seems to be in my left eye peripheral, flickering like when you look at the sky, but it's ignorable. I thought I was losing the vision, but nah, it's just the flickering light." So peripheral vision is your side vision. So Bryan may be able to see perfectly well when looking straight ahead, but his peripheral vision may be somewhat impaired. So did Bryan simply not see roommate Dee standing in the doorway when she froze in shock in the wee hours of November 13th? Did this account for Bryan's difficulty in being able to locate his knife sheath? So, Alyson, if you would turn your mic back on. Turn your mic back on. There you go. So, okay, so I think that maybe the fact that he had some impairment in his peripheral vision, some people have just felt like he was so focused on what he had just done on the crime. And again, Bryan is innocent until proven guilty. He has not had his day in court. So I just want to say that on the outset. But the man with the bushy eyebrows, if this was Bryan, do you think that the fact that he had a visual impairment, now this would not affect your driving, and periphery can be here, it can be here. So would that have potentially affected whether or not he saw Dylan?
Well,
and
absolutely.
Did that save her life?
That, I actually did not hear that until now about the peripheral snow. And that's why I was looking at my phone. I didn't look it up yet, but I mean, maybe he's gone to an eye doctor. Can contacts resolve that? I don't know.
Yeah, he posted some posts on this as a teenager, and so I'm sure he said in one of his posts that they had recommended to him to go see an eye doctor, and so he did. I'm sure go and see an eye doctor. But I'm just wondering if that little bit of impairment, people, may have also prevented him from realizing that he dropped that knife sheath. Now, some people feel like he dropped it intentionally, that it was supposed to be a clue, and that maybe his DNA wasn't supposed to be on the snap. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up because, a couple hours ago, I was discussing with my boyfriend about this, and he had a knife in a case. And he interrupted me, and he's like, "You need to stop talking and listen to me right now." He goes, "There's no way that can fall off. A sheath is clipped to the pants, and it shouldn't be laid there." So that is really curious to me because they have it, on their side and they take it out. I said maybe they were trying to defend themselves and somebody ripped it off, or maybe somebody placed it there, as in maybe somebody else was involved. I'm not sure.
So
it should have been connected to his pants. Nobody would just walk around with a sheath.
So you wouldn't have the sheath in your hand and then
I didn't know
like
that.
this. It would be clipped to you.
Yes, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. So that's new. So that should have been clipped to his belt. Now, is it possible it just came off?
I
and
could,
he did
I
in
could
the
even
struggle.
Run and grab it to show an example, if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. If you don't mind, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay. So while she does that, I'm going to play a little bit more of this, and then we'll have Nurse Alyson show us the knife sheath on the flip side. Do you want me to turn? There you go. As I shared with you in my last video, I do believe that Bryan returned to the crime scene. Bryan also posted about his visual snow, quote, "When you look up at the sky, it's severe. Do you ever experience that it in your peripheral vision? I noticed it and I thought I had some light in the vision, but it was just the snow flickering like usual." On July 4th of 2011, Bryan explained that he had been experiencing, quote, "horrible depersonalization for 2 years." So it sounds like there was more going on here than just vision impairment. It sounds like he needed some kind of psychological intervention. This to me sounds like some kind of psychopathy, sociopathy, something along those lines, because he's talking about feeling like a piece of meat. He's talking about not having normal feelings. And it's making me wonder if this, when he was, and he posted these as a young teenager, this is prior to him going to college. And it's making me wonder if this could have contributed. If you're just joining me, you're with Reporter Room. My special guest today is Nurse Alyson. She is just popped off for a second. She's going to get a knife and a sheath. She's going to show us how it would connect. And because there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not this sheath would have been left behind by accident. Did it come off his belt clip in the struggle? Because what Nurse Alyson was explaining is he wouldn't have been holding it in his hand. So it wouldn't have been just something that he dropped. It would have been clipped to him. And then when he removed it, did it get knocked off in the struggle? Or did he leave it behind intentionally? What do you guys think? If you think that he left it behind intentionally, put a 1-up in the chat. If it was left behind in an effort to throw off investigators and he didn't realize he had gotten a tiny bit of his DNA on the snap. If you think it was knocked off in the struggle, put a 2-up in the chat. If you think that the knife sheath fell on the floor, put a 2-up in the chat, and let's see where you guys are at. So Small Fries is saying that the sheath wasn't attached to him because he was wearing coveralls. There's Alyson. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So they're putting 1-up in the chat if they think that he dropped it purposefully, and a 2-up if they think that it got knocked off in the struggle. And I'm getting a very mixed bag. I'm trying to catch all these. Let me just show you guys what we're getting. Go ahead, Alyson.
If anybody chooses number 2, they would be incorrect because he just showed me how to do it really quick. So this is a knife sheath. There's actually, where's the camera? So
hold on one second. Let me just say thank you, Gayla Lucas, so much for the $5. She says it could have been held just to protect his hands. It doesn't have to be on the belt. Great point. Okay. Okay, so Alyson's going to show us this. Let me take these off. And so you guys can see her. Okay, let me just take this off too so you guys can see this. Let's see. Okay, go ahead.
So I was wrong about saying like how it could fall off. So he gave me a little quick demonstration as I went and grab it. So this is the sheath, and you have to put it through a belt loop. It's not like a click off thing. So there's no way that's coming off.
Oh, wow.
I put it backwards, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then you put it through your pants. So, and then you just unbutton here, and that's how you pull the knife out. I wouldn't understand how it would protect your hands, though. I just feel like that's one extra thing in his hand that he doesn't need when he's trying to, commit these crimes, allegedly.
Wow. So, okay. So if this was clipped onto his belt loop, and that's the purpose of the sheath, is to clip it onto you, then there's no way it would have come off unless his whole belt came off. So did he drop it, do you think?
Or did he shower and want to leave a little souvenir behind? I don't know.
Wow. Okay, so Stacy is saying that you do not have to put it on the belt. Yes, we agree with that. Stacy, let me show that. So you don't have, but you can put it in your pocket, but would you put something that big in your pocket? I don't think so.
This is definitely not the knife that I think it's double the size. I saw an example that a K-bar is like this. I saw somebody put it from like their pelvis to their knee, almost the length was. And I would think if you're committing a brutal crime, like, I'm sorry shouldn't do this. Should I pull this? So if you were doing that, your hand would slide down. How do you not have any single, wounds on you? But then again, those wounds in his hand don't even look like knife marks either.
So Gail is asking, could he have carried it? Thank you so much, Gail, for the super sticker. I will put that toward equipment for the channel. I really appreciate it.
I think once again, I think if he did carry it, that's still like when he takes it out, now he's got his other handful. He can't, he could have put it down, that could be too.
So you think that if he did have it in his hand, he would have had to have put it down because now, do you think he was thinking that Ethan was in the house, or do you think that was a surprise? I'm wondering if the DoorDash was a surprise and the fact that Ethan was there would have been a surprise. Users were really. What do you think, Alyson?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I didn't really hear you about DoorDash.
So do you think the DoorDash
guy maybe
would have been a surprise? Do you think that he was expecting, because Chris Cuomo on News Nation confirmed that DoorDash had been called by Xana. So I thought maybe that he used that to get into the house, but Chris Cuomo on the News Nation said no, and I covered that in one of my videos last week, that he did not use DoorDash. Do you think that was a shock? And the fact that Ethan was there spending the night would have also been a surprise?
Well, I think it was also a surprise that Kaylee was at the house for him because she already moved out. She was only in town for the weekend, showing Maddie her vehicle. So in his mind, it was Xana, Maddie, and the two other surviving roommates that lived there. Since Xana's been dating him for a long time, I'm sure that wasn't maybe a surprise because I'm sure he slept over often. But if he had to have known about the other two roommates, it just wasn't by chance that he didn't know they lived there. If he supposedly visited there 12 times since, I believe, July.
Yeah, according to his phone records, he was there. And then on the night that this happened, according to the affidavit, his phone was turned off as he headed from Pullman, which is about 15 minutes or less away from 1122 King Road. So as he left Pullman, Washington, somewhere in that route, he turned his cell phone off. But then the next morning, around 9 a.m., his cell phone is pinging at the 1122 King Road residence again. So what was up with that, do you think?
Well, I just thought of this going back to the DoorDash and the front door. I think he got in the same way he went out. That's just my opinion. But I'm sorry, what did you just ask me again?
Oh, and that's great. I and everything Alyson and I are sharing with you guys is our opinion, and opinions aren't facts. So I just want to give a little bit of a heads up on that for everybody that isn't familiar with Reporter Room. This is a Critical Thinkers channel. If you're not subscribed, please do. give this video a thumbs up. It helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. So yeah, so we were just trying to figure out why he came back at 9 a.m. and why he didn't turn his phone off that time.
Yeah, that's really weird that he wouldn't turn his phone off, because obviously he planned, or did his phone just coincidentally die? There's no, that's, too good to be true. But did he go in the house? And then maybe he just forgot to turn off his phone. Maybe because he had a perfect mindset, like he was ready to go. He was going to go do this. I'm turning off my phone. Here I go. And then he was so focused, maybe not the blur. He was focused to go in and go out after he did what all was said and done. But then afterwards, maybe he realized the sheath was left behind. He was in a frantic, forgot to turn the phone off. That could be a good possibility, I would think.
That just in a panic to try to go back in, because they found that van's footprint outside the door that didn't match the other footprint. So, but he would have gone home, showered, and changed his clothes. And again, Bryan is presumed innocent. Everyone's innocent. He hasn't been proved guilty in the court of law. But whoever did this would have gone home, showered, and then, and Bryan's phone pinged at 9 a.m. So maybe he forgot to turn it off. Maybe he was going back to just see if there was, had they called 911 to enjoy the circus of the whole thing. That's what Olivia, who is Kaylee's sister, thought might have been. My theory is that he went back looking for that sheath, because when he got home, he had to know it was there, unless he left it behind as a souvenir.
Yeah, and a lot of, I've heard that a lot of people that, commit these crimes, they like to go back and, observe their amazingness that they did, know. But I feel like he would have been, when his mindset would have turned, he's like, all right, got to turn off the phone again. I believe, he was maybe in a frantic. But I just wonder with, the technology that the law enforcement has these days, how can they tell that those two footprints that were found are related to the case when there was 150 people in the house the night before?
That's a great point. It could have been somebody that was just in the house, and maybe that's why Dylan didn't freak out when she saw a strange man. Maybe it was normal. Gail Lucas, thank you so much. So Gail Lucas wants to know, he came back, DoorDash was in front. Kaylee put the photo up of the roommates from earlier that day back on Insta. So he came back, he came in the back door. Okay, so we all agree that he came in the slider door, because we don't think he had the key code to get in the front door. And then Kaylee put the photo up of the 5 roomies from earlier that day on Insta. So he would have known there were other roommates there. Do you think that would have been his motivation to come back? Is to, did he think maybe he had been seen or he had missed someone?
I remember seeing that post on Instagram, but I post photos on Instagram all the time, but they could have been from a week ago. It couldn't mean that was what I was doing at that moment.
Yeah, because you can put stuff on a timer to get the post out. Because you can do that on a lot of social media platforms. You can put it and have it it doesn't come out at the moment that you post it. It'll come out at another time. Yeah,
for instance, I went on vacation. I didn't post my photos until a week later. And so I wasn't technically in that magical paradise at that time. It was last week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could have been the reason why, and I also don't think there's 12 drive-bys, the last one was it was a couple months before. Well, why wasn't it anytime sooner to plan what you were going to do? So I just don't even, I think that's when it comes back to maybe something with the recreation, because he used to be involved with that.
So you think Bryan was familiar with this house because of his own history?
Possibly. Can't not think that. It just doesn't, there's so many different ways that this could go.
Yeah, and we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. Law enforcement has only released what they absolutely had to release to us. and there's a gag order on the case. So the defense attorney can't talk. The prosecution can't talk. The parents cannot talk. The parents of the victims cannot talk. So there is a gag order on this case that was imposed by the judge. There was one originally, but there was a stricter one that was put on Thursday. So nobody can really, give us any extra information as to what this all was. So what do you think about that animal hair that they found in amongst the hairs that was listed in the search warrant? Do you think that animal hair, because that's what connected in the Delphi murder case, that's what connected Richard Allen to Libby and Abby. They found cat hair on either Libby or Abby. And Richard Allen, they were digging up the backyard. We didn't know, what are they digging his backyard up for? And it turns out they were looking for this cat to link him to the hair, to link him to Libby and Abby. Do you think this animal hair, because Bryan didn't have an animal, and I've heard a lot of people say, oh, doodles don't shed. Yes, they do. If you brush a poodle or a doodle, they will shed into your brush. So do you think that this could be Murphy? Did Murphy save the day?
Oh, yeah. Aren't they considered hypoallergenic? I have two hypoallergenic dogs. No, they don't, quote unquote, shed, but they still shed, if that makes any sense. They still are going to lose their hair. It's not like it's going to be all over the place like a golden retriever would be, but there's definite possibility. And especially if Dylan didn't notice him protecting his hair, there's got to be one of those hairs being his as well. You would think he would know better to at least put a beanie on or something.
Right. And we don't know if he had something on his head or not, but she could see his eyebrows.
But the poodle for sure could definitely be, the icing on the cake for him. But
yeah, I think if they're able to link the DNA on that knife sheath and then link that animal hair back to Maddie and Jack's dog, it was Murphy. I think Maddie's he's dog. Toast.
So that he was
Kaylee's dog. Sorry, Kaylee and Jack's
okay.
dog.
So that was the question, because Murphy was supposedly in the other bedroom. Murphy doesn't live there anymore, so I wonder if somebody else had an animal there, because Murphy was just in that house for a day. It could be a possibility, because I used to bring my dog all the time to my friend's house, and they have all these people constantly coming in and out of their home. Yes, it could be dog hair, but maybe it's not Murphy's because he was there for one night.
Right. So, but Murphy always slept with Maddie or Kaylee. Now, if you put and Murphy was known to scratch at the door. So if they would have put Murphy in the bedroom, an empty bedroom, a door alone, and just close the door, that seems kind of weird too. I could see if he was like in a crate or something like that, but he was just loose in an empty bedroom upstairs. So do you think Bryan could have potentially put him in the other bedroom?
Yeah, maybe that's why, because the dog maybe would have started barking he must have started barking once he heard of maybe a whole bunch of commotion, I would think. But why not bark when you saw this person come into your house? Maybe my dogs would go crazy. I'm sure everybody else's were, until, they got up and smelled you or whatever. But that makes me lead to believe that maybe he was familiar with him.
And if you're just joining me, my special guest today is Nurse Alyson. We're talking about Bryan Kohberger. We're talking about Dylan. We're talking about peripheral vision, visual snow. We're talking about the shock phase and how long shock would normally last. And we're also going to talk about Bryan's mindset. So do you think Bryan has some kind of, he talked about not having feelings and just feeling like he said a quote, sack of meat, that he just didn't have feelings. Do you think that, and this was as a teenager on a post, do you think that this is some kind of sociopathy or psychopathy, Nurse Alyson?
Well, I was trying to, figure out the right way to answer that. If you're going to go commit a crime and you're a PhD student for criminology, you have a lot of education behind your plate. You know that you have all these posts in your past. You would want to go get rid of them. We can easily see them. You think he would know to get rid of that. But I saw the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. I grabbed one of my nursing books. This is why I wanted to show you. So
Okay.
in school, mental health, unfortunately, is not studied as hard as it should be. That's what it's often overlooked. It doesn't get much credit for. So in this book, this one textbook, these, oh my gosh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages out of this book of over 600 pages are just on behavioral health, mental health. That's it.
Okay.
I wanted to give a good, reliable source for my thoughts, and they're not in there. See, it's only about, schizophrenia, and anxiety and things like that. So when it comes to the sociopath and the psychopath, I found a comparison of the two, and I just fell under more of the definition of the psychopath.
Okay. And what made you feel like psychopath versus being a sociopath, in your opinion? And Gail Lucas is saying that sociopath and psychopath people aren't normal. They don't think like mentally healthy people. So that's why they can't understand. Right. They don't have the normal feelings. Like even with Chris Watts, he had to Google. If you go back to that case, he was, I guess he was going to profess his love to Nicole Kessinger, and he looked up on one of his computer searches. He looked up what do people feel when you tell them that you love them? He didn't know. He didn't know what the feeling was, in my opinion. So what do you think the difference is, Alyson?
So according to this grid that I have, a sociopath is impulsive and erratic, but a psychopath is calculative, thoughtful, and scheming, which in my opinion, from what the facts that we have, that would mean the 12 drive-bys, the knife with him. He had this all planned out. Said he remains calm, composed, and thoughtful in times of distress. That's a psychopath. A sociopath is aggressive and impulsive in times of distress. All relationships are shallow, psychopath, and no empathy at all. Appears shrewd and heartless. But sociopath, unkind, but has a little empathy left in them.
So both,
and nobody said his classmates, said that he was friendly. There was nothing odd. They didn't think, I believe, and especially his teachers. That a couple that they talked to, didn't feel that he was anything out of the ordinary. But many people could hide that. Do you know if he was on any medications or seeing anybody?
We don't know. Nothing has been released. I'm sure the defense will be bringing that up for sure. And we are not diagnosing anyone. I just want to make that clear. Where, even if you were a licensed mental health counselor, you would not diagnose someone that you hadn't seen. And if you did, that would be extremely irresponsible. Everything that Nurse Alyson and I are sharing is our opinion, and opinions are not facts. I just want to clarify for that. For that, and if that this is a critical thinkers channel, so we're bringing you guys all of the information, and then you guys can decide what you think and what you don't think, and you're welcome to agree or not agree with what Nurse Alyson and I are sharing with you. Just do it in a respectful way. That's all we ask. So it sounds like you're thinking that because he was a more organized thinker, that you think that he could, the fact that he's devoid of emotion falls under both sociopathic and psychopathic types of personality. And again, we're not diagnosing Bryan, but it sounds like what you're thinking is that because he was more, that you think this was more planned and more thought out, that he planned this in advance, allegedly, that this would fall more under what a psychopath does, because a psychopath plans things. Did I understand that correctly? Yeah,
that's what it seems like to me, because even when when he had the little frantic, maybe driving back at the 9 a.m. But what about when he was pulled over twice? He seemed very calm, cool, and collected getting pulled over.
Right.
You
And
know?
his dad kept saying where they were going. And then he kept saying, we're going for Thai food. That was kind of weird.
Yeah. And
what do you think he was thinking when he got pulled over that second time? The first time it would be like, okay, we got pulled over, our taillights out. And we know now that law enforcement was trying to get photographs of the hands. And I enhanced those photos for you in a prior video of his hands. They wanted that on the police body cam footage. What do you think he was thinking when he got pulled over that second time, Nurse Alyson?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. He still seems calm. Maybe he just realizes he is a bad driver, to be honest. Or he just has been going too long, like, get me out of the vehicle. But, the brain works in mysterious ways. And, some things we just can't, ever figure out, I feel like. That's why we always have to do research on things to see. And it's just mind-blowing that you would do something like that with how hard you worked with him, working on his PhD going that far.
Yeah. And he had a bachelor's in psychology and then his master's in criminology. And then he was going for a PhD. So he was definitely into all of this stuff. He would have studied all of these guys and been up on this. So do you think he was just more book smart and didn't have any experience doing something like this? This was his first time and this is why he got caught? Or do you think, what do you think? Why do you think if it was him, and this is all allegedly, he got caught?
Well, it was definitely messy. I think he made every possible mistake you can. So it's like he didn't even try to plan it at all once it came down to it. So who knows? Maybe it could be the DoorDash did, throw him off guard. Oh, it could have been Xana's boyfriend throwing him off even some more. Then Kaylee being in the bed. There's now all these people. And then now there's the dog.
Right, because Murphy would have come with Kaylee and gone with Kaylee.
Now there's a lot of noise going on with the barking. But you would think he would be smarter with observing homes with security cameras, even. When there was one that was less than 50 feet away, they said. On
the neighbor's security cam, the house was just, the 1122 King Road was here, and then the house with the security cam was sitting right here. And it's just, it's, you think he would have been aware of that, or not driven your own car to the scene.
I read, I don't know. That's a different topic we could probably bring up another time. But if there was somebody else involved, maybe, did they actually get his license plate at the scene?
We don't know, because they have not told us that. I have not, in either the affidavit or the search warrant, I did not see that listed or mentioned. And I read through those very carefully. That I know that they have his car on multiple surveillance cameras, and I'm sure they may even have, and I don't know, they could have him actually driving the car away from the crime scene. We don't know what they have, because they haven't told us yet. They're holding everything.
So right before this began, there was something I read, and I don't know if I should bring it up because I don't want to kind of change the subject, but there was another incident that happened, I believe, December 15th, of the military man, that there's allegations that this could possibly they were connected. Well, he also drove a white Elantra, supposedly, to this article I found. So that's why I was bringing that up too. I'm not sure where that's going to go, if you've heard that yet.
No. Do you want to tell me about that? Let me just tell Bernadette, thank you so much for this super sticker, Bernadette. I will put it toward the channel. I just bought some more editing equipment, and I'm going to buy some more. So I'm being told that we have background noise. Do you have anything going on in your background, Alyson? Because I don't.
I have a fan.
Do you want to?
Is it a fan noise?
Is it a fan noise, guys?
It's been on the whole time. If that's.
Because I don't hear anything. I don't hear a background noise. I don't hear anything. So I don't know. Do you guys hear a background noise, or is that just one person? It could be interference on their end. Well, let's continue on anyway. Okay, so I lost my train of thought with that.
I think I screenshot it.
Okay, great.
Kopaka, they both worked at WSU. He was, I think, the security guard, and so it showed the clip of the first pullover, and they were talking about the SWAT and him getting shot in it, and he goes, "Yeah, we worked together," or whatever. But it said they both work at WSU, both live near campus, both drive white Elantras, and maybe hang out and compare gay bar knives and sheaths. Who knows? But their eyebrows kind of look similar. And they said maybe he snapped on Bryan, maybe he set him up. And then he like flipped out, and maybe that's why he threatened his roommates and got the SWAT standoff.
Oh,
and
wow.
then he got killed. So I don't know how I came across this, but it was interesting. I haven't been able to do much research on it yet. But I didn't know if anybody else heard that.
No, I have not heard anything about that. Do you want to just try turning your fan off and just see if that does it? Okay, great. All right, she's going to turn the fan off, and we're going to continue on for a second, guys. Experiencing, because it sounds like he was devoid of empathy. It sounds like he was devoid of love. And this is really common in sociopathic personality types. So let's talk about that court order. Who needs protection and why, since Bryan is still in jail? Okay, so in the court order, they weren't releasing certain information because someone needs protection. Now, Bryan's in jail, so who do you think could possibly need protection? Any ideas, Alyson?
Well, I mean, I watch too many crime TV shows. So there could be, possibility that they could know somebody that gets access to somebody inside that could maybe even harm him. But maybe people want to, go after, people could do some crazy things, as we know this world is, maybe to protect their family. I think I know the noise you're talking about. I hear it too.
They're saying it's fine now. It could have just been like a little glitch. Sometimes, on the connection, something will happen. Well, let me change out. Let me remove this, take this down for a second, and let me pull up. Okay, so we have this whole debacle, guys, of the Mad Greek restaurant. So I have two clips I want to share with you. One is the interview with the reporter from People magazine who talked to the guy, and that to talk to this person who said they saw Bryan at the Mad Greek. And then the second one is after the Mad Greek makes a statement. I'm going to read that to you, but let me just share this with y'all really quick. See if I can grab it. Oh, it doesn't want me to, telling me it's not giving it to me. Try one more time. I know what it is. I need to present video file. Nope, it's not letting me have it. Okay, so let me read it out to you guys. Okay, so the restaurant where Madison and Xana both worked responded to the People magazine article that said that a witness came forward, a former employee of the Mad Greek, that Bryan Kohberger had eaten there twice in the weeks leading up to what happened at 1122 King Road. And in a very strongly worded Facebook post, Jackie Fisher, and that's who owns the Mad Greek restaurant, she released a statement on Facebook, and she said, quote, The news media should really do their due diligence before running a story with completely fabricated information. This will be my only response to this story from people. It's not true. This person wants their 5 minutes of fame and now has caused a whole bunch of extra work for myself and the investigators. I have a little bit of pushback on that, and that I'm sure that the People magazine would have confirmed that this person was a former employee. They would have probably at least asked for a ticket stub. But also this 15 minutes of fame, this person came forward anonymously. So I'm not sure what to think about that. But let's finish the statement and let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section in the top chat. And if you want to join the top chat, you just need to be subscribed for 1 minute to Reporter Room. So she also said, I have not forbidden employees from speaking to reporters. We all decided collectively to support the families and not share anything that could potentially harm the investigation or cause the families more stress. So my question is to you guys, if your boss gathered you together and asked you, and this is what we should do to not add stress, are you guys deciding collectively, or would you feel pressure from the boss? I don't know. So she says, to all media, reporters, internet sleuths, please allow us to grieve the loss of our friends and coworkers. And of course, I agree with that. This has been incredibly hard on us, with our phones ringing off the hook, reporters banging on my door at my private residence, and hunting down my employees, as well as showing up constantly at the restaurant. We have not been afforded time to grieve. She asks that everybody stop calling, messaging, knocking, showing up. I personally will not be doing any interviews or entertaining wild accusations at this time. My employees also feel the same. To all others, please don't believe everything you read. If it's not coming from the courts or the police, wait until it does or doesn't before judging. To everyone who has supported myself, my family, and my employees, thank you. Your time, words, and support are getting us through each day as we navigate these unknown times. And I don't have any doubt in my mind that this would have been a really, really tough time for the Mad Greek. But I do remember something similar happening in the Gabby Petito Brian Laundrie case. So if you remember the Mary Piglet, when Brian Inton went to the Mary Piglet, the manager of the Mary Piglet said that the incident didn't happen, but yet we had witnesses that were in the dining room. One was Nina Angelou, who's a very popular Instagrammer, that she had said that she saw that they were fighting with the hostess. And they, she described them as Brian and Gabby as fighting with the hostess. And, my kind of pushback at that time was, listen, if they didn't pay their bill and you had to run out and get them, there was something going on. It wasn't all nicey, happy, kumbaya, because nobody just doesn't pay their bill and leaves the restaurant if they're happy. So do you think that this could have been a former employee that, left the restaurant and just came forward anonymously? So I don't think the 15 minutes of fame is, or do you think that this was somebody that got a pay stub from a friend or something like that? I mean, a big organization like People Magazine, I would just think there would be some vetting involved. What do you guys think in the chat? If you think that this was maybe a miscommunication between this owner and a former employee, and as a owner of a business, would you know everything that your employees saw or didn't see? What do you think, Nurse Alyson?
Did they say he was a former employee?
Yeah, former employee, not current.
Because I was going to say, well, I wonder how former. Maybe he became former because he spoke out. I'm not sure. Or didn't agree in the little huddle of not to speak to anybody and said, I can't keep this to myself. And maybe he got fired or quit because of those reasons of what they wanted to do. Because, some people want to help, get some justice. But it wouldn't surprise. I wonder how many times you can, alter the gag order, because maybe soon we're going to see a gag order on the employees of the Greek place.
The Mad Greek, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be. So John is saying the Mad Greek info is not true. People Magazine is false information. People Magazine is tabloid, garbage, gossip. I'm going to push back on that. I disagree. I'm not saying that they don't ever do anything that's gossipy or tabloid, but I don't think they would just purposely. I just find it really hard to believe that they would destroy their reputation by intentionally putting forward a false witness. I just think they would have done some verification of the witness. They would have, if it would have been me I would have asked for, a pay stub to prove that you did work there before I would have gone public with it. And I would have recorded the interview so that I had a backup. And so this
And
could just be a he said, she said, in that the reporter got the information from somebody that used to work there. And maybe this person did lie to the reporter. That's possible. But it could also be that the owner doesn't know every single person that came in and out of the restaurant. I mean, at the Mary Piglet, to be fair to the manager of the Mary Piglet, who said that that an incident didn't go down. Well, he may not have seen it, but certainly people that were in the restaurant saw something go down. So I don't know what.
If he wanted his 5 minutes to fame, then he would have not remained anonymous. I think he just really wanted to, say that he's been seen there twice.
Yeah, unless it was just somebody, throwing themselves in. So I just thought it was, interesting. We have this, he said, she said, the owner of the Mad Greek. I mean, I would imagine having your restaurant linked to something like this would not be, great. It would, and then having to go through the personally of knowing Xana and Maddie, who both worked there as servers, that just would, break your heart. I'm sure that this owner really does care about her employees.
Well, I'm sure it will up their business because I've seen a lot of people, like even driving by the murder scene, the home. So, and I'm sure there's like a whole influx of customers there in and out of that little Greek restaurant there.
And Maria says she wants proof on cameras. My understanding from reading through the People magazine, and at the time before I went live, about an hour before I went live, I checked to see if they had printed a retraction, and I did not see one. So I would think that if there was something hinky or wrong, there would be a retraction printed. I haven't seen it yet. It doesn't mean that there won't be something coming, but I just thought it was really interesting that we have, again, just like we did at the Mary Piglet, these two very, very different takes from employees and the owner of the Mad Greek. And then at the Mary Piglet, it was a person that was in the dining room. And also people did verify that Bryan and Gabby did not pay the bill, and the manager. So I don't think anybody was not telling the truth. I just don't think everybody sees everything. If you're sitting in the restaurant and you see a fight break out, that's different than if you're managing and you're bustling around, you maybe didn't notice it. So I thought maybe it could be something like that, where it just simply was the owner didn't see him, or maybe, and video cameras, how long do they really keep those for? Or this could just be somebody who used to work there and, just wanted to throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but some people's memories work a little different. Like I see, people all the time. I was like, I've seen them before. So, I can retain. I'm just nosy, I guess. I'm always, observing everybody around me. And so if I saw somebody that came in twice and then I saw somebody on TV, I'd be like, oh, they were definitely here. If it was recent, they don't necessarily have to do something like make a scene to be recognized or remembered.
Right. That's true. And I do want to give my sympathies to the owner of the Mad Greek and to all of the employees. I can't even imagine what your loss would have been like to lose Xana and Maddie. I would imagine that it would just be, very heartbreaking. And then to have to, have people banging at your door and knocking at your door or interrupting you while you're trying to get your work done, to ask questions about this would be very, very frustrating. So I do think we should let law enforcement handle it. And then anybody who's, doing that needs to just stop. That's not the right way to go about it. And then we'll see what People magazine does. If they come out with a retraction, or if, they stand by the story. I would think they would have a recording of the interview. That's what I can't imagine putting that out there and not having it, but I guess we'll see. So I'm really curious what we'll see, what will come out of all of this, because it sure is been very interesting. Is there anything else you wanted to share, Nurse Alyson, that we didn't talk about?
No, it wasn't the Mad Greek. Was it in like a strip? There was like different establishments all connected around it. Maybe they have footage.
Law enforcement, from my understanding, is they did pull footage from the surrounding areas. So maybe she got word back that they didn't have anything. But again, how long do they keep this footage? Because this happened on November 13th. We're into mid-January now. It's January 21st. So I don't know. But I can understand not wanting to have your business be interrupted by all of this. And she has a good point that she's been
Yeah.
through a lot. And as for Dylan, I just want to go back to Dylan for a second. I feel like she's been through a lot too, and maybe we don't know everything that there is to know about what happened that night. I just think that you guys have had so many questions in the comment section about that missing 8 hours, that I just thought that Nurse Alyson and I would try to address that whole shock phase. So you think that the shock phase would last about 30 minutes?
Well, they would become conscious again within a minute. With the shock phase, they could have the brain fog, but if she's trying to use that as her defense, well, the defense is going to pick that apart, and that could really, help Bryan in that, I think.
Right.
So, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me, especially if there was any recreational use. You still are seeing a masked man in your home. And there's 3 numbers that you've been drilled in your head since you were probably in diapers.
911. Yeah. And it is really, really weird. Well, I just want to thank you so much for the knife sheath demonstration. If you guys did not see that, you'll want to back up the live stream to watch that. Alyson gave us a really awesome demonstration. I want to thank Nurse Alyson for being here and sharing her expertise with us. I'd like to thank our mods so much for your help. Thank you so much to our executive producers, Energy Shots and Diane, to our producers, Christine Burdick and Sasha Angel, and to our channel members. And if you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, please do share this in your favorite Facebook, Reddit, or chat room that you prefer. And Nurse Alyson, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you to our subscribers, and I will see you guys all next time. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.